Right, well, welcome everybody. We're so glad you're here. I think we're going to start with Terry first, and we're going to do a little switcheroo here. All right, Terry. And just let me know as soon as you're ready to start. You can just start talking.
Okay, so I can start talking right now. All righty. And you put your mask on, I can take this off, so maybe people will hear me. Maybe that's a good thing or a bad thing, we don't know yet. All right, welcome everyone. I couldn't be happier to be here. I moved to New Mexico in June of 2018, and I was excited about all the art here. I moved from northern Minnesota and thought it was going to take several years to break into the art community here or whatever. And Remarque welcomed me with open arms, and it felt so good. It was almost like discovering a family I didn't know I had. So a lot of good feeling here. And then I think it was last year whenever Jessica said, why don't you do a show proposal? And I did, and so here we are. I am excited to show you my work, and I think there's going to be a chance for questions from folks, which would be good. So we could probably do the slideshow. Here we go.
All right, go right ahead, Terry.
All righty. And so
we're just, we're on the first slide. Let me go to the next slide.
Okay, there we go. All right. A little bit about what's going on here. I was a Prince major back in the dark ages in the early 70s. And then I was taught art, had no access to a press, didn't do printmaking for ages. And then lo and behold, here comes gel plate, and I flipped, and I could do it at home without bad chemicals, and clear back then they didn't have safe inks or all that. So that's what you're going to be seeing here is a lot of gel prints, and collage is mostly what I do. And this one's called Chair Tangle, and you can kind of see I cut out all these chair shapes in different sizes and then layered. And so that's what you're seeing right here. And this one is called Conversation, as it says there. And there's something about empty chairs. When it's a grouping like this, I think you get a real nice sense of, to me at least, it's warm, and you can almost visualize people having had a conversation and they just left. You know, I'll get more into the empty chair stuff in a little bit here, but you can see that one. And what do we have? Okay, this one I'm going to chat for a bit. I did this collaboration with Alan Bealey, and I do a lot of collaborations with artists. I love doing that. And there was a Facebook group called Not Paper, and it was pretty small at first. Now there's like 6,000 people in it. I don't post there very often, but there were a core group of us that really got close. And so we would do different kinds of collaborations. And Alan loves chairs. He is a retired graphic designer, master collage artist, lives in Brooklyn, New York. And so I showed him these, and I said, I don't want to send you the originals because I need those, but how about if I do a high-res scan, send you that? And he flipped over it, and I like this one better than the one that's by itself. It's like, and so we did 4, and I got 2, and he got 2. So that's a little bit about what's going on here. This one is called Discord, and you got that tilted chair, and that's kind of self-explanatory. And next one, there we go. And here's his other collage. And so you kind of see the color came off a little bit different there, but I love that red that he put in there. Well, the primary colors in the center are just wonderful. So there's something to be said about collaboration, and it's about trust, it's about stretching, and it's about, you know, when I get things in from another artist that are so far from my style, I love that because it's a problem solve, and that's how I grow, I think, as an artist. And so this one's a very nice one. Okay, this is the diver, and I did this particular monoprint, and I just loved that orange with that blue. And I was looking at it, and I went, oh my gosh, I'm going to put a guy diving in there. I don't know why that came to me, but it just did, and it just seemed like it was just made for it. So it kind of has that nice kind of feeling. Some of my stuff has sort of this, not necessarily loneliness, but, you know, single things going on. You'll see as we go here. This one is indecision, and, you know, his decision that he needs to make is floating away, and he better get on it. All right, this one's called Leaving, and that's basically what it is. I remember, you know, leaving home when I went to college, and there's some other family stuff that I have going on that this is really hits for me. And the monoprint in the background, I was trying out some different techniques, and I, you know, when I got done with that series, there was like a horizon line in each one. And I have a few of these left. The last show I had in Minnesota, like a few months before we moved here, some of those are gone now, but we can go to the next one. Okay, this is a series that I need to give some background to. And these, there's 3. And these were convicts from North Shields, England from like 1904. A friend of mine found these on the internet and sent me this whole folder. And so with that date, it's safe to use. And I was so taken by their stares into the camera. And what she is holding was not what she was. It was a shaming photograph because their crime was on a chalkboard. You know, they wrote it on a chalkboard and boom, took their picture. So I thought, why not make these people messengers bringing a message of love to people? And I think their gazes suit to that. And these are pretty large. Framed, they're like 19-inch square. So, and I altered them a little bit in the computer. Great big monoprints in the background. And then the lower part is a diorama. And believe it or not, those 3 children were also had little things that they were holding up. They were involved in crime as well. Okay, this one is Richard, and same kind of thing there, his gaze right into that. And what amazed me is that they like dressed for their picture. You know, they had nice clothes on, and I don't know what the whole story is with that, but you can see his heart's flying off, and there she is. And this one would be Walter, and he's got his love in the diorama there too. And what's fun about this is if you are able to see it in person, because it's a diorama, the lighting, no matter what's going on in the room, casts these shadows. So it makes for a really fun kind of thing. All right, this is called Pamily Ties, and it relates some to the other. I believe the gentleman on second from the right, you know, where there's the 2 guys, he is my husband's great-great-grandfather. And so there's some family stuff going on there. Once again, house symbols, single chair. So some people are a part of the family and some are not part of the family anymore. All right, this was called Neighborhood Wish. When we were getting ready to plan to go to New Mexico, and I had this wish, I'm hoping that people will be accepting and nice in the neighborhood where we end up living. And my wish was granted. We have the most incredible neighbors that you could ever want. But that's what I was thinking about here when I made the little neighborhood and the 2 guys there. All right, this one's called Quiet Ride. And if I'm not mistaken, that is my husband's father when he was little, riding on that little pony. And I just love that photograph so much. And you can recognize it's similar to the other one when I did that series with those center horizon lines. And then this particular one ended up with that brown at the bottom. I just love that. And so that's what that's about. All right, tethered to the past, and aren't we all? Um, um, there's some family stuff in my life that's not very pleasant right now, and that's in the back of my mind, but I think, you know, good and bad things in the past, and I certainly have a lot of good in there too, or whatever. It depends on how much you want that to have a hold of you. And so on this guy, you know, you can see it's lassoed around him, and it's going right back to the family house. All right, he'll cry if he wants to. And this one was just fun. And I was experimenting, taking these old photographs, really playing with the contrast. And then I printed them out on text. And this was text from a 1950s art education book. And if you look real close, it says the teacher needs to understand and her own personality and will be approached through and will consider separately. And so there's those little bits there or whatever. And so depending on your age, you will know what that song was. It's his party and he'll cry if he wants to. And it was just fun. This one is a very favorite of mine, and it is called Rescue. And once again, gel plate in the background. When I do these, I don't have a print in, you know, a collage in mind right away. So sometimes I'll experiment, and I had a tool that made those great wave shapes or whatever. And sometimes when I do a print session, I'll print 30 or 40 at a time. Some of them get made into envelopes to send to people, and some I end up keeping, and eventually they appear like this one in a work. And, you know, I think all of us have had this experience before where we are in uncharted waters, not sure what is going on, and then a friend comes and rescues us by being there for us when we really need to have someone there for us. So that would be Rescue. And Uncle Bill, and sometimes, you know, I had a longer title or whatever. You know, we loved Uncle Bill. He always made us laugh, and I think we all have a relative like that in our past or whatever that was the clown that was fun to be around. And you know, and knowing a lot of people like that, there is also this kind of loneliness side to the folks that are like that, really. And so it's sort of like this push-pull on this one. All right, more social distancing. This one was real interesting, and you'll see another one that goes with this. I stacked up a couple of monoprints, and I got a really good, for once, sharp X-Acto blade, and I cut through like 3 at the same time. So when I lifted that off, there was some blanks, and then I had all these separate chairs to work with. And so this was a gel print in the background, and then I had another gel print, and I just, because those were empty holes where those chairs were, I put that behind there and glued that right to it. So it was kind of fun. And then you can see these are purple chairs that dropped out from that, and so I glued those right onto this. And you can kind of see that one chair is really large, that other one is smaller, it's farther apart. All of us are struggling with that right now. Some days I don't think I can even take it anymore. I like being around people, and this is hard. So, you know, I chose to say something about that in this work. This is social isolation number 1. And sometimes you feel really isolated in this. I've got some dear friends that have experienced recent losses, and they're doing this pandemic on their own. after having been with someone for 30 some years. And so I was thinking about that when I did this. And so here's that big chair in front. It's got that tilt to it that, you know, sort of unsteady. And then way far away, there are probably people in that house. This is the second one for that, very similar feeling. And I tend to collect all kinds of ephemera, and I love old stamps and old letters and old envelopes. And I think those add a dimension to the work, another level to that, where you can be wondering, who were those letters from? And is that helping this person that's isolated right now? Are they able to reread those letters, and is it helping them? Who knows? And social isolation, number 3, and similar stuff there, whatever, that the house in this one is kind of precariously up above there, and sort of the whole discord of the isolation thing. Okay, this is still waiting, and it was done like those other chairs were, where I cut through some prints and put some prints behind it, and then I had some of the actual pieces to collage with that. And so, you know, with just very little imagery in there, I think you can make up a story there or whatever. That hand's reaching out there to them, and it doesn't look like they're interested in coming forward. And this is the called Waiting, and it's the same one, different background. And these were, this was empty, and I put that blue stuff behind them back there to do that. And I think just with those 2 elements, you know, it's, to me, it's amazing. It doesn't take too much to knock a really good feeling into a piece, and that one does it for me. And once again, it is waiting. When is this going to be over? You know? And this is one of my very favorite pieces. A little story about this is I have an art group of gay men that I'm a part of, and we met each other online, and we really got close. And now every other year we get together, and it's like art camp for a week, and we make art. And that picture in the lower part I got at the Long Beach, California flea market. And it's the biggest thing I've ever seen. It took like 3 hours to get through it. And there was this pile of photographs, and I went, I am so using this. And so then I had the other 2 pieces there. And once again, wistful departure. I just think that, you know, I really like the triad composition that I did for that. And it's just a real favorite of mine. And I think we're done.
I think we are. If anyone has any questions for Terry, please unmute yourself and fire away.
Am I off the hook?
Hey,
Well, I
Terry.
appreciate folks listening to my talk, and I know that we've got another one to go here, and hopefully everybody got on that wanted to get on here. And
I have a question for you,
Oh.
Terry. Can you hear me? This is Jessica.
can't hear.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yep. Here.
Okay. Quick. Oh, somebody's asking you a question.
There we go.
I'm just curious about your process. I think you said a little bit, but do you start with like just making some prints and adding photos?
Okay.
You start with the photo.
Sure.
And then, yeah.
You know, and there's different ways that I go about that. If you've looked at my collages, we were looking through there, I'm a little tight when it comes to the cutting, you know, and that's sort of a Zen thing for me, because I really like to do that. Unfortunately, I've had to buy a magnifying light because I can't do it quite as good as I used to be able to do that. But what I'll do sometimes is when I find imagery that really speaks to me, It depends. If I alter it in the computer and then print it out, if it's somebody's photograph, I've contacted the artist that did that and asked for permission to be able to use that. And then oftentimes I like to alter them. Now, when it comes to the other print piece, what I love about gel plate printing, it's the opposite of when I cut. So I go wild with it. And my studio is trashed for days when I do that, because I'll do a batch, like I had mentioned before, 30 or 40 prints in a session. And you can successively then layer those prints. And so you can keep going and going with that. And you can do a lot in one day with that, because acrylic paint, especially here in the desert, dries really fast. And so I'll have all these prints, and I'll have a stack of those, and I have a stack of the imagery that I've had, and I just start looking. And then pretty soon I'll have 3 things going on at the same time, and then the stories start to emerge. So that's kind of what goes on there. That's a good question. I was going to talk about that, and whew, was gone. Thank you, Jessica.
Michaela,
I have a question.
oh, who has a question? Go ahead.
Living now in the Southwest, are you finding more Southwestern things that are sparking your inspiration and like hot air balloons and things like that?
I love the balloons. When we moved here, we moved from northern Minnesota, about an hour from the Canadian border, and we lived on 22 acres of forest in this house that was 9 miles from the little town where I was teaching at a university there. And it was wonderful. And somebody said, how can you leave the forest? I came to Santa Fe the very first time, I think in 1977, and I was enthralled with the landscape. There is this calmness and serene quality to that reached me in such a different way that I hadn't experienced that before. So in answer to your question, yes, in fact, some of these pieces you can see where those earth tones are starting to creep in, and yeah, it's definitely gonna be an influence here. That was a good question, thank you.
Heather, I'd like to know how you collage them. Do you use wheat paste, like machine clay, and how do you typically flatten them?
Okay, if any of you out there are collage artists, that is quite the good question. I've tried many, many different ways to do this. And as odd as it sounds, I've ended up having of late the best luck with, I don't know for sure the pronunciation, Uhu glue stick, UHU, I think it is. And it's a certain brand of glue stick that's permanent. And it takes a while to get used to it. But once, you get that rhythm down, to get that really small coat of glue on there, it seems to just really do well with that. And I haven't had a whole lot of trouble with my stuff curling. Sometimes if my substrate is really thick and the other piece isn't, there can be some of that tension there or whatever, but that's pretty much what I use. There was also one, Crystal Neibauer, she wrote an incredible book, Expressive Mixed Media Collage, or whatever the title was. It's a fabulous book. And I've taken a class from her, and she mixes like part, I can't remember the name, it's a golden product, and with Yes paste, and it's a glaze solution. It's like golden glaze, and you kind of mix that half and half. If you've ever used Yes paste before, it's in a jar and you can turn it upside down and nothing will come out. It's sort of like the really expensive version of the kind that the kid in school ate that was next to you in first grade, but it's safe, it's archival, and I hated it because it was so thick, but I have used hers, and I do some work that is multiple levels of layering and layering that are, those things are not in this show. That'll be for another time, hopefully. But so those are some adhesive questions. You're asking good questions.
I have a question. Can you hear me okay?
I sure can.
Okay. So Terry, how did you do when you had that layering thing with the shadow behind? I can't remember the shadow box or something.
Oh, okay.
What did you put behind that top?
The messengers you're talking about with the butterfly wing things. That was really odd. And those of you that are artists out there will get this or whatever. When I saw those pieces, and I actually printed them out pretty large, like, I think I printed those out 11 by 17 or even larger. It broke, but I used to have a printer that would print even bigger than that. And when I was looking at them and I was looking at that, I went, I've always loved dioramas from the time I was in elementary school. In fact, I oftentimes was in trouble because I would be making things like that instead of the math project that we were supposed to be on. And I just thought, wow, I haven't made a diorama in a long time. And I happened to have these 3 shadow box frames that were like 19-inch square. Once in a while, I bought those like years ago, and they sat there in the studio, and I went, and so I had this space that I knew I would be able to have because it's 2.5 inch, maybe 3 inches thick or whatever. They're IKEA frames, and so the glass is out of way, so I didn't have to worry about trying to make that myself. And so then I actually did make the little boxes myself that I put everything in. I have this weird little thing that's called a box maker, and you can take cardboard and you figure it out and score and then clip it and fold it up. And so I put the clouds in the bottom of that, and then I folded it all up. And then I messed with the imagery until I got it to the size, and then used foam core to do the different levels on the back of each piece. It doesn't show up really well in the photograph for that, but you get a little sense of it. Very, very fun. In fact, now I have like 4 more smaller ones or whatever, and so they'll sit there for a while because I just have to go back to that diorama thing eventually again because it's fun.
All right, any more questions?
Cool.
All right, well, thank you, Terry.
Thank you. This was great.